Straw Hut Media.
Hey guys, Sklar Brothers here, Randy and Jason, and we don't like to be alone with each other, let alone Jake Hogan.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Hi, welcome to Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. Guess who I am? Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. It's a show where I ask interesting and funny people about my problems, and I appreciate you're here to join me for it. I've really been enjoying hearing from listeners, so if you have anything to say to me or want to communicate in any way, please write to dbawjk@gmail.com. Please subscribe to the show because those numbers mean something to somebody. Those advertisers seem to like when more people are listening and watching, so please subscribe. Today we have a great show. It's the Sklar Brothers. The Sklar Brothers are comedians, but they're writers and they're actors, and they have been around the scene for quite some time. And every time I see them, they're hysterical. But they also have another lovely aspect to them, which is they're sports nuts. And I wanted to ask them about something that's been bothering me, which is, as an adult man, why do I care whether my sports team wins? Sports teams are created tribes. They're just a tribe that you just assigned yourself to because of location, because of a player maybe, because of some kind of history, but they have no value to them other than, I wear this Brooklyn Dodgers cap every show or almost every show. I like the Dodgers. I care about them. And when they win, I'm happy. When they lose, I'm unhappy. And why should that be? Why should my emotions be tied to this thing? It's a corporation. It's a money-making operation. I don't get upset when Coca-Cola doesn't do well. I don't get thrilled when, Apple does something great. Although I actually do know a lot of people who care about Apple as though it's their family, which is also insane. And I don't want people to say that about me caring about the Dodgers. Anyway. Right now we're having a great season of the Dodgers. It's going to be a great year and I'm riding high on it. And I don't want to destroy it exactly, but I just want to put it in perspective. So I'm going to have the Sklar Brothers here to tell me why I'm not an idiot. And we'll hear from them right after this.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
First of all, thank you guys for being here.
Of course.
Sklar Brothers.
Thank you, Jake.
Before we begin, I want to thank you for this
I brought you a pink lemonade bar that my daughter made. It's great.
What's your daughter's name?
Noah.
Noah.
She did a wonderful job. She made it all by herself. I ate mine already. I ate mine off camera.
That's fantastic.
I don't have to make a big deal out of it.
Does she often make beautiful, delicious?
She's starting to. Every weekend, she likes to make something different. She did it all by herself.
How old?
She's 26 years old.
Wow.
All
so
by
proud.
herself. No, she's 10. She's 10.
10. That's fantastic.
Yeah. This is a treat to see you, by the way.
This is
I love
fantastic.
This. So our friendship spawned from a listserv.
Yes, the Stump.
The Stump, which was became Fight Club.
Sort of, yeah. There was a
I don't know if
it was a forum. It was a forum.
It was an email listserv, email forum where people picked fights with each other, which was insane. And it was born out of a lot of creative, very talented writers who used to perform at what was it called? The show?
The Sit and Spin.
Sit and Spin, which was a way for writers to read written works that were so fun and fascinating, and there was an electricity around that show, and everybody was doing great stuff at the time. Jill Soloway and was Jill Soloway.
Right, now it's Joey Soloway.
Right,
he is now Joey Soloway.
He is now Joey Soloway, but there were so many great people on there. You were on there. Jim Vallely. I just think of all the people who worked on Arrested Development and who wrote on other shows that we were big fans of. So if you wrote something and it was funny and you got a good response, to us it was like a wonderful, like a clubhouse.
Yeah. It was a fun, interesting, sort of insular kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it spawned a lot of people's writing careers and that kind of fun. But my thing, the Stump, was just a place where people could write anything and were allowed, no matter how horrible it was.
Right.
And the whole thing was, don't share it with anybody.
That's right.
If you wrote it, it belonged to you. Nobody can steal it without your permission. Nobody can. Right. And that was all it was. And all it did was, mostly it was a lot of fun, but stirred a lot of people's anger and hate.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And it was early internet. It was exactly what the internet is, which is
it was Twitter. It was Twitter pre-Twitter. So,
pre-Twitter.
But you knew everyone in the room.
Yeah.
And there wasn't like you can't hide behind an avatar.
Right.
Your name was at the top of the email.
Right.
And so, yeah, there was something unique about it, and you felt like you were sparring with the best of the best.
And the most remarkable thing about it is I made zero money. I'm the only person in the who innovated the internet. I was an innovator. I made zero money.
You created this wonderful thing that was just something for people to do when they weren't making money.
That's true. To procrastinate while you're when you had a writing assignment.
Joy of like that is writing. So we do 2 podcasts, and one of them is called Dumb People Town. And at the end of, are we allowed to curse on this podcast?
Fuck yeah.
Oh shit. So yes. So at the end of every episode, basically we'd take like 3 of the dumbest news stories that have happened and try and understand why.
Sure.
Why did the mom drive her kids around in an inflatable pool on top of her car?
Because she wanted to be mom of the year.
I guess. We just trying to figure out who this person is. And so at the end of every episode, we say, oh shit, we got to get back to work.
Because it feels like the moments in a writer's room before you have to get down to the task at hand when someone's like, have you seen that video of the guy who did the thing with the thing, and then you all watch it and everyone makes 40 of the greatest jokes you've ever heard.
Nothing to do with the show.
Nothing to do with the show. Oh shit, now we got to go back to work.
It gooses the engine, so to speak, to get you ready to do the
I've read many books on creativity, and part of creativity is not doing the thing.
So I'll talk to people before I read the book about creativity.
So who is the guy, and it might have even been your father for all we know, who said, they said, what's your writing routine? And I guess he worked on one of the lots, and he was like, I show up at 9 a.m. and then I go get breakfast, and then I go back to the bungalow,
read the paper,
and I read the whole paper, and then I take a nap, and then it's lunch. And then I go to the commissary, I talk to people, schmooze around, have lunch. And then I come back and I work for 4 hours. Yeah. And then I go home. And the person who was like, I guess, interviewing or whatever was like, that doesn't sound like a very and big work day. But you think back when we all worked regular jobs, I don't know if you ever worked a regular job. We certainly did. Yep. I don't know that I worked more than 4 hours in a whole day. I messed around.
Yeah.
I avoided work for about 5 hours. I don't know. Work 3-4 hours a day.
That takes a lot. If I've worked regular jobs, to avoid work for 5 hours at your regular job takes a lot of.
You avoid for 20 minutes here.
20 minutes here. You make a phone call to your friends. You do a little of this, that. I used to write monologue jokes at my old job and read them at lunch, and I'd take a long lunch. But friends of mine and I worked at Q2. QVC's younger, hipper.
Oh, nice.
It's like ESPN too for QVC.
Like Pottery Barn too.
Right, worse. And I had 3 friends, and we wrote through their email system, which we then got in trouble for, a 3-part trilogy about us as if it was the beginning origin stories of like a Lucasfilms, like a new Star Wars about people who worked at this place. I handled the backstory, someone handled the present day, and then someone took the future.
It's phenomenal.
I mean, the amount of effort we put into this thing, which was so much fun.
And that wasn't going towards your job.
Wasn't going towards your job.
Right.
But that's what we need, right?
Yeah, you do. You need something to be excited about, something that's fun while you're doing the drudgery.
Agreed.
I want to introduce you. I haven't introduced you.
Sorry.
You guys are the Sklar brothers,
yes,
correct?
Right. Yes,
this
we are.
This is Jason and Randy.
And
you guys are fabulous stand-up comedians.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed. Watched my wife and I watched this weekend. Did a deep dive.
Oh, nice! Great. I hope all.
But also writers and actors.
Yep.
Jack of all trades. I would say
do it all. Maybe we're like the utility infielder who never gets in the Hall of Fame, but is like every team needs.
He was a utility infielder. That was his best quality. What? That he wasn't great at any one thing, so he had to do everything.
The show ostensibly is about solving my problems.
Let's do it.
So, but before I get to the problem, I want to just talk about how 2 brothers decide to go into comedy and not kill each other.
And twins, no less.
I mean, it rarely works out. They have to be really.
But which one's the funny one?
That's a great question.
They have to be good people.
Of us.
In order to be brothers to work together, you have to be good people, like the Weinsteins.
What?
No, the truth is, so Randy and I have always had what we consider to be a unique relationship when we look at it in the context of all twins, not to be lumped into twins. We are, but what's interesting is we
have fought against it.
We fought against it. So we don't talk about being twins in our act.
I would say that there were certain things that happened in our lives that pushed us to be the people that we are within comedy. So there was this thing inside of us that did not want to be seen as other twins. We initially early on said, what they're doing, switching places, trying to trick people, dressing alike, those things, talking at the same time like we just fucking did. But
Makes my skin crawl.
Those things bothered us.
Right.
So we, as a writer, you would say later, as a stand-up, you'd be like, that's hack. That's a hacky thing to do. It's like basic.
Fat guy's going to come on stage and talk about, you cut my leg open, gravy's going to pour out.
Right.
All right, I get, fine, that's a joke, but it's like,
so in our hearts, we're like, we kind of railed against that a little bit as growing up.
Yeah.
And so, you sort of move down the road to comedy and like informed the way we looked at writing jokes and who we were as people. But to be in a partnership, and I believe we could probably speak at length about just like a lengthy partnership.
Right.
It's like a marriage in so many ways. You have to just, nobody can keep score. As far as, well, I did this, and so you got to do this, and I did that.
I went to couples therapy with my wife. I think, it was with my wife. And the therapist, well, I didn't know if we were married yet. If we were married
Don't
yet.
say it like it's a surprise.
If we were married yet. It might have been before or after. I'm not sure. Whatever. We went to couples therapy. The therapist was like, what do you think the percentage should be of what you do in the marriage? And I was like 50-50. We both kind of said 50-50. And the person was like, no, it should be 100%. And you should not keep score. And you should think you're doing all of it. And you should think you're doing all of it. And you should know that she's doing all of it. And she should know that you're doing all of it. And that is how we survive this thing. Also, I think I watched a lot of stuff about Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin, speaking of your dad writing for Dean Martin. And they kind of had different goals as they grew and as they got bigger. And they had questions of like, well, my success can be this thing over here, and my success can be this thing over here, and I'm this person, I'm that person, and then they broke up.
Right.
I think our goals are similar, and I think we understand that, like, together our success is like, if he has a successful thing, that's good for us. If I do something, I did Curb Your Enthusiasm and I loved it. He didn't get to do the show. Fine. We just did What We Do in the Shadows, and Is it fine?
Yeah,
I thought it was fine. For me, because I did it, it was fine.
It's not fine. It's a slap in the face.
It's a total, and I want to bring it up on every podcast.
Right.
I mean, it's the most Curb thing ever.
Sure.
To be like, I didn't get to do the show. How come he got to do the show?
I confronted Larry David about the show's over.
Yeah.
I said, how come I never got to do the show?
Right.
And he said, you weren't in my orbit. I'm not in your orbit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people not in your orbit who are on the show.
No one's in his orbit.
Nobody is.
Nobody. So I don't know. I was there. That's what I felt left out.
That's all right. So does he.
No.
But so I did it. Did I mention that I did it? So I did it, but we did what we do in the shadows. I had a smaller part, and his part grew, and he did a whole big thing, and he was there, and he did great, and I celebrated it. We just have our relationship with each other is, I do think the more we meet other people and understand it in the context of the world is pretty unique.
It is. I can say from the outside, it's very unique.
I think we both have the same desire to succeed by way of loving the work that we're doing.
Right.
So there are a lot of things that have lined up. We both want to do great work and be seen as quality stand-ups who aren't just a gimmick as twins and whatnot. That goes back to the core of not wanting to be seen as like a gimmick. Hack. And we want to work. Both of us really enjoy working. It's not like one of us is like, oh God, I hate this. We're the happiest when we're on a set. We're the happiest when we're in a job. We're the happiest when we're like, okay, we know for the next chunk of time, this is what we're doing.
Right.
I don't care how much work it is. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care that that's what I'm thinking about when I go to sleep or when I wake up.
Well, that's the passion of working. If you have a job, I mean, this is true of any job I've ever had.
Sure.
It's like, I'm excited to go work on that show.
Of course.
And otherwise, I want to fix it. I want to make it, even if it was a show that I initially didn't love.
Right.
I will fall in love with that show and make it my life.
Exactly, because the harder work is looking for work.
Yeah.
The problem solving of like, how do we fix that scene? How do I make this character pop more? How do we write more for this character? Those are problems you can work on. That's actual stuff. How do I get this industry to understand that we have a good idea? That's an amorphous thing to know. to add one more thought to Randy's thing. I think also we think about this a lot, and this is, I think, a way that we've managed to not become bitter about wherever we are in this world. Our level of success actually has served us so well in so many ways. If you're super successful, like Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin, you got people in your ear. Hey man, you're the funny one. You don't need that guy. You got this. Remember when you were great in this? And all of a sudden,
what does success look like? It looks like you're gone for 3 months.
Gone for months. Right. Your kids hate you. They don't know you anymore. Right. You have no relationship with your families. Like all that stuff. You're making tons of money, but your family is the people on the set. So they've had mass success. If you're failing miserably, then you fight with each other and you argue over who's the reason why, and you get mad at each other and you break up. We have managed to have just almost enough success that we are still reaching for it. We need each other. We still like what we're doing. Right. No one has gotten such a big head because we're so successful. We're in the hustle. We're in the fight. We're the utility men. You got to scrap for your job. You got to hustle every day. And so in that, 2 things happen for us. One, we keep performing stand-up every night because we feel like we have to, or at any night we can. So you do something.
Keeps you sharp.
Keeps you in the mix with all the people who are out there. You understand how things are changing. You understand the new trends. You understand how you can evolve as a comedian. If you're working on that all the time, you get better, hopefully. That's one. 2, we're around for our families and our kids because we haven't gone off and done like 5 movies a year. Right. So we've gotten to raise our kids from being young. They make lemon bars for friends.
That's fantastic.
You get involved in their lives, and we're parents. So we've hustled super, super hard to lead a normal middle-class life with our kids, be happy with that. And hopefully the promise of work is always around the corner, or we get to do work. We've gotten to work a lot. We should be grateful for all the work we've gotten to do.
I was lucky enough to be around for my kid and spend time with him. He's now 22, about to graduate from college. And I would trade it all for an Oscar nomination.
Hey,
just
come on. What's David Feldman's joke?
David Feldman's joke was the best joke ever.
I don't know his joke.
Saw a David Feldman, phenomenal writer, unbelievable stand-up too. Like one of my favorites. Like I put him in the same category as a Dana Gould.
Okay.
Like phenomenal writer, great stand-up too. David Feldman was talking about
there was like
a rabbi who had done like a Holocaust documentary that won an Academy Award, and he's like, the acceptance speech just didn't sit well with him. He's like, the guy was like,
6 million Jews
died in the Holocaust, and tonight it's all worth it. Thank you so much.
That's fantastic.
Oh, man. So we get it. I know that's you.
I mean, my question. The show is called "Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan," and here's why.
I just read that
because I have people like you, smart, interesting people, solve my problems, and my problem.
Thank you.
That I would I throw to you, and I wrote to you what it was going to be, which is sports. My problem is sports. Why? I'm a 60-year-old man, and
you don't look a day over 59.
Terrible. I was going to say 53. You didn't look a day over 59.
I'm still rooting for the Dodgers like I was 12.
Okay, sure.
And
why is that? And you think that's a bad thing because
it's silly. The Dodgers is a business. I don't root for Samsung and I don't root for. There's a million other things I don't root for.
It's the old Seinfeld bit. I'm rooting for laundry. I'm rooting for clothes.
Seinfeld's great.
I'm rooting for clothes.
The owners change. The players change. The rules of the game change.
Sure.
The leagues change.
Have you heard Jeff Tate? He's a great comic out of Cincinnati. He now lives in Portland. He's so funny. He did a bit about how everyone's like, the sanctity of baseball.
The numbers.
You can't use the steroid guys because they had a different thing and did it. And he's like, how far is the left field wall in Boston? It's 180 feet. What is it in LA? It's 340 feet. Okay, so we don't care that the wall's 80 feet high, and the dimensions of every ballpark are different. The place where one guy plays 80 games has a short left field, and we're all worried about the sanctity of the numbers. Relax a little bit.
But so let me tell you about sports, and we've thought a lot about it.
In addition, I just want to put out this: that when the Dodgers win, I'm ecstatic and I feel good. And when they lose, I feel terrible. And somehow when they win, I feel like it was my accomplishment. Like somewhere in there.
This is great.
It's insane.
We've
please help me.
Okay, so I love this because
we have so many theories.
We've talked about it and we have so many theories about this in so many ways. So let's get into it initially. The magic of sports is not that it's a couple of things. One, that like people are doing things that regular people cannot do.
Right.
Especially when you start to play, or if you watch your kid play, like my son is playing high school basketball, and he's like at the lowest rung of a good high school team here. But I'm like, all these players, like I watched a kid on the varsity team score 68 points one night. This season. I'm like, that kid's going to the University of Houston. He's going to ride the bench. He probably won't even play.
That's right.
68 points a game. I mean, he's Master P's son. Master P. Do we call him Mr. P? I don't know.
Yeah,
but like,
he's the original Master P.
The levels that you have to get to the pro level, the games you watch and you love.
So it is.
You're honoring
it's
talent.
Definitely magic.
Right.
The trick with sports is that it makes you think that it's high stakes when it is the lowest stakes thing in the world. So you think it's life or death. So your love of the game sparks something inside of you. Yes, it was when you were a 12-year-old kid and you watched. So if you're 60 or a 12-year-old kid, you're watching. You remember the Garvey 74 and the
great Steve Garvey.
So Rick Monday,
senatorial candidate.
Oh God. Steve Garvey's the worst. Steve Garvey, who like once lectured his babysitter about fiscal responsibility and then bounced a check.
Yeah.
And had many kids out of wedlock. He was the ultimate Padre.
Yeah.
When he went to the Padres, you're like, this is who he is.
He's Padre'd so many children.
Right. So, but like Garvey and Russell and all those things, Lopes and like all those guys, the Penguin. And those teams in 74, 77, 78, 81. So those are your teams. And so that reminds you of your youth and what a beautiful time in like
in
LA
your formative
sports.
years. They were competitive. They were great. They were special.
So you had that to lean back on. So when you watch, it kind of brings you back to that period of time when life was simpler and easier. You want them to win in the same. You put a lot, because we in our business have to put a lot of unrealistic optimism towards what our projects are. I think I really want this show to go. We're up for writing a movie. We're going to get this ready.
Of course, you guys got a shot.
We have a shot, but you have to have optimism on a level that is absurd. Like the fact that we all believe in our hearts that AI won't replace all of us is a level of optimism that borders on delusion.
You have to block it out. And so you're like, all of my optimism goes into that place on a daily basis. I put it all into in your kids and all that other stuff. So when you go to sports, it's an escape in a world that is separate from this. You're like, I know you think you have the outcome. I mean, I'll tell you a great story about thinking you can control the outcome. But in the end, you're like, I can be as negative as I want about this. And because you're throwing it at a TV, you're not throwing it at like at players. You're not punching your kid. And so like all of our bile and vitriol come out when we're watching sports. It's the worst. We say the worst things ever. And I say to people, if you're a true fan, if when your team loses, your next day or two are ruined.
Right.
I remember when the Cardinals left, football Cardinals, we had season tickets to the football Cardinals. They left from terrible ownership and went to Arizona.
Right.
The very first season, I thought about their games and I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
I really don't care. So I'm like, they're no longer my team. I really don't care about this team.
Well, that's how I feel about professional football. Professional football is to me just an opportunity to bet on games, and I have a fantasy football team, and I don't care what any team does at all, ever.
Is it free? So let me ask you this, because we grew up in St. Louis, we don't have an NBA team. Well, Jay kind of likes the Clippers.
So I started to feel it for the Clippers. I've become a Clippers fan. I know when I like watching, well, it is, but when I'm watching them play and then do Clipper things.
When they Clipper.
Yeah, when they Clipper. The best
Clipper.
Yeah.
When they Clipper and they lose, I'll text David Cohan, our buddy, who's the biggest Clippers fan I know, and we'll just go on like a back and forth rant of like darkness for like a few pages.
It's hard to be a Clipper fan.
By the way, I'm saying your feelings of why the world's coming to an end because they lost, these are good because you're playing them out in a theater where it doesn't matter.
But it's pretend. It is all pretend.
Low stakes. It's
it's beyond low stakes. It's no stakes.
No stakes.
There are no stakes.
The Dodgers
lost last night to the Padres.
It's your escape though. You're upset.
Yeah.
So I get the feeling of being upset. We'll walk in, like the Cardinals will lose, the baseball Cardinals. That's our baseball team. They'll lose like 5 games in a row, and the management sucks. And we've had winning seasons and traditions of winning. And when your general manager doesn't care and you haven't picked up anybody worth a crap, and you feel like the whole thing's sinking south, we'll go to our producer of our podcast and we'll say, Aaron, I'll bet you a steak dinner Cardinals don't win 50 games this year. Like that's after 4 losses at the beginning in April.
Right.
Like that's how we feel. That's how fatalistic we get.
But that's also you're hedging your bet with karma, saying, I'm going to bet against my team.
So I'll make myself look like a fool. So my team. What does a pessimist want more than anything in the world? To be proven wrong.
Right,
you don't want to be right. You don't want to be right. You're like, I'll eat the crow.
My father does this. My father bets against the team that he loves. He'll place a bet against the team that he loves to mitigate his joy.
If he loses,
so if they lose, he wins. But if they win,
he's like, I don't care.
But no, but it keeps his joy. It keeps his joy from being up here.
Yeah, keeps him in
the
middle.
Down here, and his pain from being down here to being here.
It's actually really.
He hedges his bet.
So I actually even spoke about this in my therapy about my unreal feelings towards my sports team, and my therapist said years ago, she was great, and she's since passed away, and I miss her. But she said, "You are trying to get ahead of the feelings." So that you can deal with them on your terms. So the hardest thing in our lives is to live in the unknown. That is the hardest part of our lives.
Our business,
right? To every day. Every day is the unknown. The hardest thing for us to do is to completely live in the unknown. Sports is one of the last places on earth where you have an unknown outcome. You don't know how it's going to play out. You sitting down and you watch a movie, you watch a TV show, you're like, all right, but they're going to get through this. They're going to figure it out. This will happen. I can predict what's going to happen. And it's also, again, super low stakes. But if your team is out there and you care and you're like, I've been following you all year, we don't know the outcome.
So, and they can produce wonderful life moments that are adjacent to it. Like our friend who does our podcast with us, Daniel Van Kirk, huge Cubs fan from Rochelle, Illinois. And we helped him get to the game. Did he see game 6 and 7?
6.
Saw game 6.
I get chills.
I get chills thinking about this. And when I retold it once, I actually teared up.
We're Cardinals fans. Hate the Cubs.
Hate the Cubs.
I hate the Cubs.
Except for when we did an interview with Glendon Rush, who was a pitcher for the Cubs, and he told us that in 2004 or 2005,
the Bartman year,
4, when it was like Kerry Wood, Mark Pryor, these are the teams we hated because they just destroyed the Cardinals. He's like, we had a TiVo in our clubhouse and it was completely filled with your show on ESPN Cheap Seats. I'm like, you can't make me like the Cubs.
That's fantastic. Come on.
How dare you make us like the Cubs?
You can't make me like them. But God damn it, I love them. I love those guys.
Yeah, okay.
I love them.
Sure.
But so that's understand our attitude.
You gotta
towards the
love
Cubs.
people who love you. That's just how it is.
So Dan, they win.
Yeah.
At 2016, first time in 108 years. It's the greatest thing ever for Cubs fans. I actually, as Cardinals fans who had been to like 4 World Series before in 10 years, from 2004 to 2014, we won 2 of them. We were in 4. I was actually happy for all of our friends who are Cubs fans.
Me too.
As much as I
first time.
The
first time I was very. They still kept winning. I'm less happy.
But they never made it back.
They never made it back.
But Daniel said he was in a bar and they had just won, and he was like hugging he's like
strangers hugging strangers.
It's the greatest thing ever. As St. Louis Blues fans, when the Blues won the Stanley Cup in 2019, it was just an amazing moment because we had great teams for many years but could never win in the history of the franchise since 67. Not nearly as long. It's half as long. But I mean, the idea that like he was like, we were going around and there was a guy, he said, I saw this guy and he had 2
glasses of champagne.
And he was looking around for anyone. And Daniel walks up to him and is like, hey, bud, are you all right? This is the way our friend is. He just goes up to people in need and is like, is everything okay? You all right? And what did he say? He said, my dad died like last year. Like
biggest Cubs fan ever. Taught me to be a Cubs fan.
I just need someone to
toast.
He
said if the Cubs ever win the World Series, we're going to have a glass of champagne and toast together.
He's like, I just need someone to toast with.
Wow.
And Dan toasted with him. And you're like, that is a human moment born out of what happened on the field.
So yeah,
again,
it's bullshit and it's fake and it means nothing. But
no, that
it's
means
father,
something.
Son.
That means something. The relationship between a father and son.
So your father's a Dodgers fan?
Yeah.
Or is he a New York?
He's a Dodger. Yeah, he's in Brooklyn. People think I'm wearing a Braves hat.
Brooklyn Dodgers fan.
Of course.
So he's a Dodgers fan, lifelong. You have that with your dad. When the Dodgers are doing well, you can call your dad, and when you don't want to talk about the real stuff in your life, you say, hey,
which is all the time.
Dad, let's talk about this.
Right. But he's a much more angry. Like he's much more angry when anybody doesn't. When a professional baseball player strikes out, which is most of the time, he's furious. He's
you bum, you lazy.
He's a professional baseball player. How can he strike out? I said, you're a professional commentator. Was every joke good, Dad?
Right.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Well, having my dad be a maniac helps me be less of a maniac because I can then
you have to rein him in
and say like, what is it? It's just a game.
You have to be rational.
Yes, relax. It's just a game. Yes, we'll lose some games. We're going to lose a lot of games. It's fine.
Ask your dad, has any baseball team ever gone 162-0? No. The best team ever won 118 games.
He gets mad during preseason. Like he is mad when they lose the games that don't matter at all.
You're supposed to lose in the
I know.
So we see where you get it from.
We see how it's been modeled for you.
Yeah.
But I think what you have to realize is you are putting some of your frustrations from your life into a safe bucket, which is your sports watching.
Yeah.
So you being mad at the Dodgers could be you being mad at some stupid job that went another way.
But then am I being, when the Dodgers are hitting and doing well, even in a game, like, oh my God, we're ahead by 6, and I'm feeling so good about that lead, even in the game. Am I investing happiness in life into that game?
Yes,
is it creating the happiness?
Andy Kindler had the best joke. He was on stage. He was like, "That gentleman coughed over there. I'm counting it as a laugh." Like that joke. Right. That's true. You can't any laugh. If you get a laugh by mistake,
so I would
it's a
say
laugh.
it's not a zero-sum game,
right?
Even though it is kind of in the game itself. But like wherever you can get happiness in your life, I say take it. If it's making you happy, then just enjoy it. And understand, Michigan just won the national championship, and we went to the Rose Bowl this year. We went to that game. That was the best sporting event I've ever seen in my life. And this doesn't mean anything. This game does not mean lowest stakes ever.
Lowest stakes.
If you walk out of that stadium when your team wins, your life does not change at all. And your team loses. Your life does not change at all.
You wake up the same thing.
But it's tricked you. That's the grand illusion. That is the best magic trick in the world. That's what sports has over you. It hypnotizes you. It tricks you into thinking it's real. And
their quarterback, who's all world, like he's been running all over the place.
Unstoppable, running everywhere. He runs up the middle. Our defensive end pushes the
right tackle
back towards him. The guy has nowhere to go. He dives forward. We stop him at like the 3-yard line. Game over. Helmets
confetti shoots off right in front of us.
I've never screamed so loud. I'm hugging my son. He can't believe it. We can't believe it. We're outpouring of emotion. The joy we felt in that moment.
After the game, we're walking out, and I don't know if you've ever been to a game at the Rose Bowl, but it's like the worst parking situation.
It's like the Dodgers Stadium, but worse parking.
Right? It's like
equally bad.
One exit, and there's one person
and the
working.
Parking is horrible.
It's terrible.
And people are driving off the golf course and merging in front of you like for hours. You think you're close, but like 85 cars coming.
So
often there's a swap meet going on at the same time.
Oh my God, it's terrible.
Weird. Why are they doing that?
We found some
market. Yeah, I don't know.
We did win and found some great mid-century furniture.
That's good.
Found a credenza.
Nice, lucky.
So we're walking off, and I see to our left commotion, and there's an Alabama fan on his hands and knees, an older guy.
Oh no!
And I'm like, did he just
someone just punch
knocked out, or what happened? I'm like, I can't even tell. He's so drunk. That's what we found out. I can't tell if he's like 60 or 80. Like his drunkenness is obscured his age.
Right.
No, we definitely know he's not Jewish.
No, that we know for sure. So no Alabama fan is helping him out. So me and my wife and my daughter, who goes to Michigan, her friend, and our buddy Seth, who writes for like the MGO blog, which is the best blog from Michigan, we go over to help this guy up. We go to like pick him up. And he's like impossible to pick up. He's just 100% dead weight. I put my hands under his like armpits to pick him up, and it's like sticking your hands in loose Jello. It's just like the alcohol has soaked his bones.
He had a bone soak
of alcohol.
Can you vomit and say roll tide at the same time?
Roll tide. So we like finally try to get his friend to pick him up, and he's like,
"Who is take out your phone and let's call your friend." But it's like, he's like the kind of old person who has expanded the font on his phone.
So we're like looking at Steve, and I'm like, S,
right,
T. It took us like 8 minutes to get the number, and we call him. Said, get your boys over here by Balloon 2. We're like, where do you want us to put you, man? We got to go.
Right.
And he's like, I want to go lay down over there. We're like, where? Right over there. We're like, there's no bench. There's nothing to sit down. No chair. Right over there. You mean around the trash can? There's like bags of trash. Yeah, it looks soft over there. Fine. So irony was not lost on us that we led. Then after the game, we were so happy.
Right.
Describe the happiness. It was the greatest victory I think we've ever seen.
I think that's why you were willing to help.
We were so happy.
Floating on air.
Yeah.
We then got the opportunity to put an Alabama fan into the garbage, which was funny. The definition of white trash. He really was.
But you were helping him. You were helping him.
He goes to sleep immediately.
Right.
3 seconds later, he wakes up as if he's like waking up out of a 10-year coma.
Who's the president?
I'm like, it's same guy, right? And
same guy you hate.
Same guy you probably hate, right? And so he tries to get up.
Hunter's dad.
Right. He tries to get up, and he's like trying to get up on soft. He couldn't even get up on regular ground. And my daughter, which is why she's so funny, just looked down at him.
She quotes the thing that's over the Michigan locker room.
She said, "No, sir, you stay, because those who stay will be champions." And I thought, I'm like, how do I deny this girl?
That's so great.
But here's how much I love those victories. I will lay in bed at night when I can't go to sleep. I will pop on my phone on YouTube and I will watch old Michigan games that we've won. Why? Because they bring me this like warmth and there's nothing wrong with that. You need to. I think you need to change your. So when you ask the original question, why do I care so much? And
it's a magic trick.
You're asking the wrong question. If you acknowledge that it is low stakes and you acknowledge that you are being taken in by the magic trick, then you actually can give yourself over to it and say,
how great is it that I, a human being who has kids, who has had a career and has had success in this business and worked and is dealing with life and all the issues of everything, can still be taken in.
I can still be moved.
But we do this as we make movies and TV where we do the same thing. We move people with the imaginary stakes that we provide, and we're doing that all. It's our job, and it's also our joy.
I don't ever cry
do it to you.
I don't ever cry when someone dies. I never do. I just don't.
I cry when people.
As a rule,
no, I'm also the same. I cry when someone does something nice for someone else.
Yeah,
in a movie.
Do you cry at bank commercials?
I cried in an Applebee's
commercial where they give the coach the plaque and he doesn't know it's coming. And
I cried at commercials. Yes, that's right.
He goes to Applebee's, sir, come over here. When you see this, and there's like a
TikTok where a teacher's retiring and all the people that he's taught come out.
How about the kid who's the walk-on and the coach comes up and says you got a scholarship and
then the whole place goes crazy.
Makes you want to cry. Fantastic. You just want to cry, tears of joy.
They give the game ball to the walk-on guy who scored 2 baskets at the end of the game, and you're like, this kid who goes to every practice.
Because we have hearts and we want to be taken in, and we want to have.
Because you say, what if that's my kid? And so the understanding, this is another way to look at it too, is that these are people, and Clayton Kershaw might look to you like this guy who's been around forever, and he's like this kind of exists on a different plane than other people. He's just a guy.
I know that.
He's just a guy
who
makes a lot more money than us than we'll ever see.
Right.
Who has a way prettier spouse than anyone we know.
Who kind of chokes up during the playoffs. And
he chokes, but he's a Hall of Fame pitcher.
Yeah, he
Hall of Fame pitcher. He is like, he has brought, so the other thing is, when the Cardinals suck, and the Cardinals are in last place this year, and they're just going to be terrible. I hate their manager. I hate their management. They are going to be, they're dog shit. They're not going to win 70 games this year. And you know what that does for me? That means like my summer's ruined.
Yeah.
Meaning, when they're good, if I'm walking around in Silver Lake or whatnot during the day, I flip on the St. Louis broadcast and I listen to it as I walk around. It's so much fun.
My daughter had a lemonade stand, and I was playing on my phone the broadcast of the Cardinals game. This is 6 years ago when Mike Shannon was still doing it.
Right.
He was the voice when we were kids, him and
5 years ago,
Jack Buck. Just to hear his voice and to hear the sounds of the stadium, it took, and while she's selling lemonade down the thing, it's a hot day. I'm like, that's my summer.
Sure.
Don't judge yourself in those moments. It's like being hypnotized by a hypnotist. There is something happening with this game that is affecting a portion of your brain that is like, you know, it's tricking you
and
into
just
thinking,
and unlike the stock market where there are real stakes,
Right.
You don't want to be irrational there. You do not want to be irrational there.
But people are, and I do, and I have been.
it's why all of your money is in crypto.
It's all gambling.
So,
it's all gambling.
It is gambling on
Yeah.
as long as you're not Pete Rose and you're not gambling on baseball,
Right.
then your gamble is with your heart.
Yeah.
All you're doing is investing yourself in it.
And I think, like, again, you are a rational person because we work in an irrational business, and so you have to be rational in your life. But I say allow yourself to be irrational in these moments because that's fun. It's like a way for you to just get all that out.
Sklar Brothers, you are correct. You have solved my problem. Thank you very much. That's one of the rare times when I ask a question, people actually solve it.
I think because we're afflicted by it too, so that's why it can relate.
I do truly appreciate it. We're going to move on to our viewer mail section.
Now it's time for listener mail.
So this is a question from listener Mike.
Okay.
Who says, "How do you deal with rejection?" And this could be
Not well.
personal, professional.
How do we deal with rejection? We create so many opportunities that, like, the second we get a rejection from something else, we can turn our focus onto something
we're
else.
really good at not just compartmentalizing, but making something that's not of equal value worth as much. So, like, let's say, I remember there was a pilot written that was really one of the funniest pilots we'd ever read. And there were two characters and they're twins, and we're like, we're gonna get this. I mean, it looks like it's written for us. We're gonna get this. We go in, we like get past the first audition, get past producer's audition. Now we're testing for the network, and we go in and we see another guy. There's just one guy there. We're like, where's his Where's his twin?
They're just gonna film two of him?
They filmed two of him the night before using especially. Sure. So his audition was multiple takes.
Right.
He didn't have the pressure of the moment.
And they edited it together and they just showed it and it looked great.
Right.
Ours was just like a regular, you're sitting in a room and doing it, and we didn't get it. And I just remember being like, we got to quit. We got to quit the business. If like we can't get these, I mean, it's like we get 3 auditions a year.
Did you say this to each other in your twin language?
Yes. No, we got 6
straight up said it to everyone who would listen.
To everyone who would listen. We get 6 auditions a year, and we would book 4 of them. So instead of getting 100 auditions a year and booking 4 of them, we would get 6. So when you don't get one,
hurts
at one that you really think you're
gonna get, we're like, it's over. It's over. We should quit. But we then did stand up like 2 nights later, and had a really good set with new material and a new bit and new stuff, and we're like, it's fine. And then, of course, the pilot never made it to air. It was never a thing that was out there in the world, so that didn't have any effect. And then our David Cohan wrote us into his show partners, and what wound up being like 1 episode that we were supposed to come on, we did like 6.
Oh, fantastic.
So it was like a wonderful other thing, but we very stupidly took something that paid us $50 and gave it the same weight as this other thing, and put it into a context and gave it the same weight that this other thing would have been, like thousands of dollars and a wonderful thing and an opportunity and maybe going forward. And we were like, yeah.
It sounds like you have a thick skin.
Thick skin, and then a healthy level of ignorance over like the grand scheme, not digging too deeply into the details.
And diversifying opportunities so you reduce the blow of any one rejection. That's what we do in this business to mitigate. The eggs in one basket thing is a disaster.
Having a thick skin, to listener Mike, having a thick skin and being able to hear rejection not as we hate you, but as it didn't work out, as life is full of tricky things that you can't control.
This is one of many balls that I've got out there, and I will hopefully do well on one other thing that I can then put my energy and effort into and be like, well, that was good. Yeah. All right, we're on the right page.
We deal with it all the time. When I get the phone call from the manager or the agent or whoever saying it's not going to work out, there's a punch in the gut. There is a punch in the gut.
You have to grieve it.
But it's not like I'm going to scream at the person delivering the news. I know that news is certainly the potential news I was going to hear.
One of 2.
You just go, you move on.
You gotta move on.
And a lot of times you don't even hear no. You just hear nothing.
Nothing.
Yes.
That's my new favorite thing. It's like, we're just going to ghost you.
Nothing is no.
Nothing is a no.
Yes is the only thing when somebody says yes.
You want to hear.
Everything else is no.
That's right.
Yeah.
Great point.
And there's a lot of no going on in our business.
Oh my God.
And always has been.
All the time. And now it's even more.
Yep. Well, gentlemen, I thank you for being here.
Thanks.
This has been a pleasure. I had a lot of trepidation with you guys coming in.
Really?
Yeah, come on. You know your reputation.
We're very high maintenance, angry, awful, difficult
wonderful,
to get.
always been funny, but also wise.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. And thank you, our listeners, for being here. If you have anything to say to me that's horrible or nice, you can do it in an email form at dbawjk@gmail.com. And if you think of it, it'd be nice to subscribe to the show, because apparently producer Ryan thinks it's important. I don't know.
It is important.
And
do it.
And thank you for sharing this time with us. And please go out and don't be alone. Share some time with somebody and do something, for God's sakes. Get off your ass. All right. Bye-bye.
Don't be alone.